Hello my felting friends, welcome to this week's video. This week we're going to do a nice simple one of a nice little snowy wintry scene. I thought we'll have something nice and simple on the run up to Christmas. So what I'm starting with here, most of this is carded wool as well. So what I've started with is a sheep coloured carded wool. So that's kind of not your white but your kind of creamy colour. Think of a washed sheep. So that's the colour. So it's not white, it's just creamy colour, maybe just slightly yellow. So I'm going to cover the top half, or if you, whatever your canvas size, this is oblong obviously, and I've divided it basically into thirds. So colour down from the top, down 2/3, 3/4 of the way down, something like that. And then we're going to go up from the bottom in white to meet it. So you'll see what I mean in a minute. Just make sure you lay enough to cover the background colour of your felt that you're working onto. So you don't see me do it, but I do felt this all down really well in a minute. So I haven't done a drawing for this because it's very, very simple, and you can compose this picture in any way you like, really. You can have more things in it or less things than I do. So just to start with, as you can see, I've done down to about 3/4 or 2/3 of the way down. And then from the bottom, in a moment, we'll come up with white. This is my multi-tool. It's just got more needles in than just the one needle, and it's just quicker for me. So I'm just going over the whole thing with this, so it's fixed in place a bit better. I don't really want it fluffy. Right, so up from this point here, this is white now. You can just see there's a subtle difference between the two. So the top one's cream, and this part is as white as you can get your wool, whatever the whitest wool is that you have, because this is obviously the snow. So we're just going to lay this down. It doesn't have to be neat, because you know, snow lays over little lumps and stuff in the ground, so you can lay this down however you want, as long as you cover your bottom felt. It doesn't have to go straight across, it can go up and down and things like that, doesn't matter. As you can see, I'm not being neat about it. And again, you need to make sure that this is felted down well as well. So what I'm doing here is I'm just popping in a tree. I'm just using some dark brown, and I'm just going to make it as a bare branch tree. And again, just remember that you can have a tree anywhere in this. If you don't want to do your picture in the same way I'm doing, just take it as ideas and make your own. Now this is the way I do my trees, is I split the wool and then I make branches out of that. But if you're happier to just make the trunk and then put your branches on afterwards, do that. It makes no difference in the end. This is just a habit I've got into and the way I do them. But I do like to twist the wool like that because it keeps all the fibres together. Just makes a neater branch for me. The other thing to think about as well is try not to make your branches just completely straight, because you don't get tree branches really growing completely straight. So put little bends and kinks in it as you go along. Doesn't have to be a lot, it's just little bits just to make it so it's a little more interesting to look at. I decided that as it's winter we'll have a nice crackling fire as a background rather than music, so you'll have to let me know if you like that, because if you prefer to have that sort of soft sound in the background rather than music, I can do that all the time. I can have sort of a little bit of bird song or some rain or some fire sounds. So if you prefer that to music, do let me know. I thought it was quite nice doing all this snow. So as you can see, I've started the branches there, and then now I'm taking individual little bits of brown wool and I'm just adding extra branches where I think it needs filling out. You can add as many branches as you like, it's just that we're going to add some snow to some of these branches in a minute, so if you make them too crowded together you won't have enough room to put a little bit of the snow. So make sure you've got enough to make the tree look like a tree rather than a sort of twiggy stick thing, but you don't have to go mad with them. A sharp pair of little scissors is always very handy. And this is the same technique I do on my Halloween trees, all that sort of thing as well. And even if I'm making trees with the leaves, I like to start off with something like this and then put the leaves around them. But there is a little bit more of a technique to the trees I normally do, but you'll have seen that if you watch any of my other videos. So now I've just taken some plain white, we're still just working with the plain white on the cream at the moment, and I'm just going to add a little bit of white. If you twist it, the white, as you put it down, it'll be neater little lines, so you can do that, or you can just lay it out and pull it like I'm doing. So we're just having some snow on the branches. It won't show up a lot because depending on the cream background you have, but it does make a difference, and you'll see that as we go later on. So I want the branches to be snowy, but I don't want to cover the brown up completely. So whatever I put down, I want to be able to see the brown through it. And as I go up the trunk here as well, I'm just doing, as you can see how thinly I've got that, just pulling it really finely so that you can still see some of the brown through, but we're going to have some of the snow actually up the whole trunk of the tree. This video is more or less real time, as long as it took me to make this picture, so it'll show you it's not a really long picture. The only cuts out I did was silly stuff like looking for other coloured wool or things like that. So the actual felting time for me is the real time. So I think this took me, no, in fact I sped this up by 10 minutes, so this took me, say, less than an hour to do this one. So it's not going to take you too long. So you can see how much white I put on that tree, but you can still see the brown through it. Now this funny blob of brown here is going to be a little cabin in the distance. So again, you don't need to draw this out. I'm just making a roughly cabin shape. You can have any cabin shape you like, and you can have it straight on or sideways. Mine's going at an angle, so you're looking at the end of the cabin and then it's going to go away from you a little bit. And although this looks quite dark, I'm actually going to cover this over later with some of the sky colour, that cream colour. Just a little hazy thing over it just to blend it into the background a bit. So don't worry that it looks quite dark now. I have two different cameras, and depending what the angle is, it depends what you actually get light-wise. So I don't quite understand why some it's brighter on some angles and not quite so bright the others. So my apologies if it keeps changing brightness on you. Again, so now this is just a little bit of orange, or you can use yellow, and I'm just putting in the impression of a couple of windows. So this window is going to be on the end as you look at the cabin, and then the other window is supposed to be on the side of the cabin. But I'm not ever so fussed about it. I'm just blobbing in roughly rectangle shape sort of thing, two little windows. So far none of this has to be technical. You don't have to be able to draw or anything like that. And I know it looks odd now, but obviously we haven't got the roof on it yet, which is what we're doing now. See, the fun bit to this again is because it's snow on the roof, you don't have to have a perfect roof. You don't have to have a perfect shape on anything, because we've all seen snow on roofs and it changes the shape. So as long as you've got a nice outline over it as if it's a roof, don't worry about it. And I don't want any of this distant stuff ultimately to stand out too much, because the focal point of the picture is going to be the person. Right, so now you want a green, a relatively dark green, and we're going to, not your darkest green, just a relatively dark green. If you don't have a really dark green, add a little bit of brown to it or a little bit of black, but don't make it too dark. And we're just going to build up the shape of a Christmas tree. So I'm going to have it wider in the middle, and the edges are going to taper out to kind of points and things. You'll see as we go. So there's nothing technical here either. Just think of your Christmas card, Christmas tree, and we're just going to build that shape up. If you're on my patrons, I have actually done a more in-depth tree like this. So don't forget to go and have a look and check that out if you want to use that on this picture. It's a little bit more involved than this one. And while I'm thinking about it, if you're on Patreon, don't forget to go and get your Christmas book, because it will be taken off Patreon on the end of December and will only be available on the website after that. So if you want your free book, don't forget to go and get it. It's about the story to go with the Enchanted Forest series of pictures that we've done this year. So it's quite sweet. I liked it anyway. And if you're not on Patreon but you'd like it, if you have a look in the description box below, there is a link to my website, and I'm selling it for £5. It helps support the channel, and it's a bit of fun. It's about 80 pages, including some pictures and things, so it's not a little teeny thing, but it is only a PDF book. It's not like a hardback book. Right, so anyway, so we've done one tree, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bigger one over here and then another little one, and I'm doing it in exactly the same way. I'm just going to build up that Christmas tree shape. And it's the same colour wool. So again, it's your picture, so if you want more of the twiggy trees and less of the Christmas tree shapes, then you can do that as well. That is the top of the tree, not the whole tree. We're still going on this one. But you can see I'm not being ever so careful either about this. I'm just going for that Christmas tree shape. So some bits stick out and are neater and other bits are not quite as neat. And it's completely fine because we're going to put snow on this tree. Right, so when you've built the taller tree, then you want some little triangular bits poking out at the front as well, because if you don't do this, then your tree is going to look flat. And this is a round tree, so we need some of the branches to come forward as well. So that's what this is for. I didn't do that on the little tree because it's a little bit further away and I didn't think it would matter so much, but it does on the big one. So now, as you can see, I'm adding snow and I'm just pulling bits of my white. I'm back to the white again, just up as if it's going up on branches. So you'll see as this builds up what I mean in the shape. I'm not covering the whole tree, I'm just peppering it with some white fluffy bits, roughly where the branches would hang. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I've never seen snow that falls perfectly, so we're just building up a snowy covered tree. And we're going to do this same technique on all the Christmas trees. And if you look, I'm not doing it that thick that you can't see any of the green under it. I'm making sure that you can still see some of the green through the white, and I'm making sure that the green of the branches is there, so we've got some depth to the tree, because if you covered it all in white you just would lose the feeling of the dimension of the tree. If you have a look at the end of the video, there is a picture, the final picture, and if you have a look at that, I did a couple of extra bits to that after I'd finished this, because I'd pinned it up on my work area and then decided it wanted a little something else. But all I'd done was I added 3 little birds in the sky, which if you pause the video at the end you'll see. I added 3 little birds in the sky, and I added a little bit of extra shadow under the Christmas trees. Oh, and that's when I did the little bit of extra, where I said to you earlier, I took some of that sky colour and I added it over the cabin, but very, very thinly, like wisps of it. I added that as well because I wanted to blend the cabin in further. So it's nothing that I need to show you how to do. I just didn't want to forget to tell you when you look at the final picture, that's what I did. So you can see I'm not doing anything fancy here. I'm just adding what would be some snow on some of the branches, and I'm making sure that I keep the branches defined. And we're going to do the same thing on this tree, and then there's going to be another little tree in a minute that we'll do it on as well. I don't know, I seem to have edited the bit out, but if you look on the white snow that's laying on the ground, you can see some wisps of blue in there, and that's some shadow. So if you have a sky blue, then put some thin bits, lay them thinly in some areas like I've done, if you can see it, and that just gives you a bit of shadow and amongst the snow, like there might be a path there or a bit of a hill and then a dip. So that's all I've done there. If you see that blue, I don't know, sorry, I seem to have missed that bit out. But I haven't obviously covered all the snow in it, just little bits in blue. But if you don't have that or you don't want to do it, you don't need to. It's just something to give a little bit more texture in all that white at the front. So now we're just putting in the last little tree here. This is going to be next to the big one, and you can have it looking like it's in front of this tree or slightly behind the big one. But if you really wanted it behind, you would be better putting the little one down first and then building the big one up. Otherwise you've got to kind of work it in and out of the branches. But this is all the same green. Looking at that as well, I don't know what happened to my editing this time, I'm very sorry. Can you see on the big tree and on the other tree there's a little bit of bluey green, and I've mixed in a little bit of darker green, and I just went and added a little bit of extra shadow in, not all over the tree, but just because I knew that the little tree was going there and it would cast a bit of a shadow on the big tree or block the light, you know, to the big tree. So I added a little bit of bluey colour up the side, not all the way to the top, just where this tree is going to be. So if you look, hopefully you can see in a moment, and I did a little bit on the right hand side of the tree, on the right hand side. It's just a touch, I'm hoping you can see. So again, I'm sorry, I don't know what I was thinking of. Obviously not concentrating properly when I edited it, sorry. But again, that's an extra, you don't have to do that. I can't help fiddling. It works perfectly fine if you didn't want to do the extra little bit of shading there. And this little tree is being built in exactly the same way. See the colour I'm using now? It's just a slightly different green. So if you've only got the one green, just add some more brown to it, or a little bit of blue, dark blue, and just put that little bit in, because all you're just trying to do is add a little bit of shadow there. And you can add a little bit of black if you want to. Just be gentle with it. You don't want it very, very dark. We're going to save the darker part to go under the trees in a minute. I'm wearing a blanket round my shoulders because it was very cold today. Right, so this is just a shadow colour that I'm going to put under the tree. So I'm using my same green at the moment, but you can definitely use a sort of bluey brown. If you're going to do shadow in the snow, add some dark blue to it. So whatever the colour you is, even if you decide you're going to use black, add some blue to it. Because you don't want a flat black, really. So again, I'm just popping some snow on this as well now. It's worth taking a little time with your trees because they're quite an important part of the picture. They're really the second thing your eye is going to go to, so you know it's worth making them look nice. So I'm doing all the snow on the trees in the white. But if you want to get a little bit more technical, where we put the shadow on the trees, you know, that darker green bit, you could take your white and add a touch of that light blue that we've put on the ground at the front and mix that together, and that will make the snow look a bit more shadowed. So you could do that just where the two little trees, the little tree and the big tree meet, you could add a little bit of that blue-white snow there instead. And now I'm taking some dark green, so I've mixed it with a little bit of black here, and I'm just adding, not all over my tree again if you look, I'm just adding some extra darkness in those little bits. And I'm taking that same colour, so that's the black and the dark green mixed together, and I'm starting to put it underneath the tree a bit, just so the tree looks like it's sitting off the ground a touch. And I'll go back in a little while. If you look, in fact I've done that now. If you look at the tree I'm working on now and the other trees, you'll see there's some blue, which is the same blue I used on the snow before, and it's under the trees. So we have that's giving the illusion of a little shadow under the trees. Right, so what I'm doing here is I've got that creamy colour in the background and I've added a hint of yellow, so it can be the same yellow that you used in your windows if you want. And I've just mixed, you can hardly see it, I've just taken the creamy colour, a little bit more yellow, and I'm not putting it all over, I'm just putting it on the horizon line, so that's wherever the snow meets the sky, and up a little bit, so it goes up and over the cabin and up the sides of the trees a little bit, because I decided that it needed a little bit something extra. So again, if you don't want to do this bit, you don't have to, but it's simply that the sky colour, which is the cream, with a little bit of yellow. And as you can see, you can hardly see it, it's just an extra little warmth to it. So I've made sure it's covered the cabin, and then I'm going to go up the side a little bit here. And I will go up the side a little bit on the other tree. Or up next to the other tree, not on the tree. And then what I'm doing here is I'm taking that colour that I've added the extra yellow to, but I'm spreading it thinner and thinner, so eventually it would just blend back into the sky. So I'm not going to end up with a really clear line. It's just going to be wispy. So down here now I have some dark blue, and I'm just adding a little bit of extra dark blue. So if you don't have the dark blue, you could use your pale blue and add some grey to it, or even a merest hint of black. You don't want to make it too dark, but I do want under the trees quite dark. So I'm not bothering with trunks or anything. It's been a very snowy day and you can't see the trunks. So now we're going to build the little person. So you can have any person you like. You can put them anywhere in the picture you like. And I'm just going to build, I'm starting at the top, so I've decided how tall they're going to be. So the first bit I'm building is their little hat, and then I will work down the actual figure. And again, this is nice because you don't have to be ever so precise, because they're going to have a hat on and they're walking away from you, so they're going to have a hat on and a scarf and a coat and their little trousers. So you don't have to worry too much about the proportions and things. You just need to make sure it's a figure shape, so you can be quite free with this. So what I did was I didn't want too many bright colours in my picture, so I've just taken a blue, and then I put the basic blue down, and then I'll put a bit of lighter blue down one side just to make it look a little round. So you'll see what I mean. So here I'm just putting a little lighter blue, so it's like a highlight down the hat, and then it won't just look like a flat hat. And I'm taking exactly the same colour, and I'm going to build the scarf. This bit's the bit that goes round the neck, so they've wrapped it round the neck. So I'm going to build that in the same colour, do the same thing with a little highlight, and then where the hat and the scarf meet, I'm going to put a little dark line. So you can put black, but I would mix the black with the blue that you've used, and then just put a little line so you've got a little separation between the hat and the scarf. This is what I'm doing here. Really, really thin. It's just as if you're outlining it, really. So now we have the head and their scarf. And the next bit is whatever colour you want their coat. You can have them dressed brightly if you want to. And I'm now just going to build up a rough coat shape. I'm not including the arms on this bit. This is just a rectangle for their coat shape. And my person's going to be wearing quite a long coat, so that's my plan, is to have quite a long coat. And we can do the same thing with the coat as well in a minute. We'll add a little bit of lighter beige. So we can take the same colour and mix a little bit of yellow or a little bit of white with it. So we're going to lighten up one side, the same side we lightened up the hat. Don't mix your shadow sides and your bright sides. You need to keep those the same. And here I've just got some dark brown, so again it can be any colour you like, and I'm just doing two little long rectangles for the legs. And again, it doesn't matter too much because we don't know how long the coat is and we don't know how deep the snow is. So if you don't get it perfectly right, you can just say that they're sunk in the snow. So don't worry. I didn't bother to do any shading on the trousers themselves. I kept that to like the hat and the scarf and the coat. And if you want to do extras, you could add a dog in this. If you feel you want to tackle that, you could add a little dog that they're walking, or another little person. You could make a smaller person and make them walking with a child. So now I'm building, having done the rectangle, I'm now building on the side an arm shape. There's nothing technical, it's just an extra little piece. And then I'm using a little bit of a darker colour, you'll see in a second, just to mark off where the arm is and the coat. So we have a little separation there. And this is me just adding a little bit of the same colour mixed with a little bit of white. If you look on the right hand side just above my wrist, you can see the colour. And I've just taken a little bit of that and just adding a bit of highlight. Then all I'm trying to do is make sure that the coat doesn't look flat, that we're aiming for a little bit of roundness to this. So it doesn't matter what colour the coat is. If you did it with a red coat, something like that, you just still want to do that. You still want to have a little bit of light and a little bit of dark. And now this is the same colour I did for the trousers, and I'm just putting a little blob for a glove. And I'm only doing one arm because the other arm is going to be hidden by the rest of the scarf as well. So you don't even have to do two arms if you don't want to. So here we go, it's the same colour that I've used for the hat and the scarf around their throat, and I'm now just building in the two long bits where they've tied it up. So I do hope you give this one a go, because it's not too hard. You don't have to do all the technical bits, extra shading like I've done if you don't want to either. So and it's worth having a go at. You get a nice little picture at the end of it. And I think my picture's 7 inches tall by 6 inches wide. But obviously you can do it any size you want. So here again I'm just adding a little bit of light colour to that scarf as well. And I nearly forgot the bobble on their hat. So what we need to do now is I'm taking some blue, slightly darker, so we've got some of the sky blue that I was talking about earlier, and I've mixed a little bit of the darker blue, or you could mix a little bit of grey if you've got that into the blue, and we're just going to make some footprints in the snow now. If you only have the light blue, then just use that, and you just want to make some footprint marks. Don't forget to stagger them as well. You'll see what I mean in a second. So all I'm doing here now, I did try doing some snow falling, falling in the sky, with white, and it just didn't show up enough. So I've just taken the sky blue colour that we had, and I'm making little dots in that and using that as snow falling through the sky. It's not technically correct, but I wanted to be able to see it. So, but if you feel inclined, you could sew some little beads, shiny beads on, something like that. So pop a few of those around, and like I say, if you look at the picture at the end, you'll see I've added some birds and things, and I did add some of this sky colour over the cottage at the back, but you'll see that in a second when it comes up. There you can see what I've done now. Well, I hope you enjoyed this picture. If you did, don't forget to give me a like, subscribe, all that stuff. Thank you very much for my patrons. If you're interested in Patreon, the link's in the description box below, and I will see you on the next video. Bye for now.